Yeah. So, okay, but back to this Aristotelian tradition and Platonic tradition, I find myself more moved by what I would consider more Platonic type people. Like even when I read Aristotle, like I love Aristotle, but when I read Plato, I'm like, oh.
I had a crisis of philosophical faith at Calvin College. Fell in love with Plato, read Aristotle, was convinced that rationally and philosophically and logically Aristotle was right and Plato was wrong. About the forms and about the soul and the body. And I said, okay, I have to choose between beauty and fascination on the one hand and truth on the other. Truth trumps everything.
Yes.
I still love Plato and love to teach him much more than Aristotle. But then, Aristotle's right.
But then I think sometimes people make a sharp distinction between Plato and Aristotle that may not necessarily be so. I think do you think?
More than that, I would say that Aristotle is 90% Plato.
Oh, wow.
A.E. Taylor, who wrote a very good book on Plato, also wrote a short one on Aristotle, proving that Aristotle is basically a Platonist.
Ooh, how did he do that? Where are the forms located?
Well, Aquinas synthesizes them by saying that the forms exist in three places. They exist in the mind of God, in themselves. They exist in things as the forms of natural things, as Aristotle said, and they exist in the human mind as abstracted from things, as Aristotle also says.
Right.
So that's basically 2/3 Aristotle and 1/3 Plato.
Yeah.
But Plato's right about God, and Aristotle's right about us.
Yeah. Who's your favorite philosopher other than Aquinas?
Pascal.
I love Pascal.
Pascal. My students, too. They are moved by Pascal.
Talk about someone who speaks to modern man. He just comes right in and he speaks clearer than... Yeah.
I'm very sensitive to sounds. And a teacher usually knows how engaged students are by how much they're shuffling and how much they're talking and how quiet they are. And there's maybe 4 or 5 different levels of sounds. There's the talking, which is kind of intrusive, and there's the shuffling of papers, which means I'm bored, and there's just the moving around in the seat, which is saying I'm slightly bored, and then there's the sudden attention.
Leaning
and
forward.
Then beyond that, if you're in a small classroom, you can tell when students stop breathing.
Wow.
Pascal and Augustine are the only 2 philosophers I know that can make students stop breathing.
Wow.
With a directed quote.
Do you teach a whole course on Pascal?
Half a course. I do Pascal, and I compare him with Jean-Paul Sartre as the opposite kind of existentialist.
Talk to me. Talk to me. Teach me.
Well, I think Sartre is a missionary that God put in the camp of atheists to convince the atheists to run screamingly into the arms of the nearest priest.
Really?
Because only an idiot can read and love Sartre.
And why do you say that?
He'll scare the hell out of you. Life is meaningless.
Yeah.
It's empty.
Yeah.
Life sucks, then you die. That's Sartre.
Yeah. This is something I think we could intellectually assent to, but not live like that.
No.
I mean, this is something that would have fascinated me as a 17-year-old who just wanted to burn everything down and was pissed off anyway.
For a couple of months or a couple of years.
Yeah.
But
you can't live like it. It's like moral relativism.
If you take Sartre seriously when you're an adult, you have serious mental problems. Nietzsche's a bit different.
Why is Nietzsche different?
Nietzsche's more complex than Sartre.
He's more sophisticated.
He's not just an intellectual. He's a poet. And he has some profoundly positive things to say and some profoundly negative things to say. He too will scare the hell out of you.
Yeah.
But after you run out of his arms, you keep looking back and saying, I want to read him again.
Yeah.
He's also totally honest. I think Sartre is a hypocrite. I think he's a simply liar. He's faking it.
So Pascal, the Pensées.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Did he publish anything?
The Provincial Letters, which are an elaborate joke on the Jesuits, which is much too sophisticated for ordinary taste, including mine.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons I love Pascal is because I may have ADD, as we're discovering during this thing. So reading little snippets is very helpful.
Exactly. And I think God, in his mercy, killed Pascal at a very young age because those little snippets were notes for a book, and Pascal was going to put them into a nice ordered book, which would have been boring.
Well, let's talk about 2 things regard to Pascal. Let's talk about distractions, and then we'll get to Pascal's wager. One of my favorite things he said, and I've heard you say it too, all of the ills of society or modern man can be traced back to the fact that he cannot sit alone in a dark room silently.
Yep.
Brilliant. It's like a litmus test if you want to see how depressed you are. Go give that a shot, see how long you last.
That's when my students stop breathing. when I quote that.
Really?
And I say,
It's so
test him. You wonder whether that's true or not. Do it, literally.
I've tried.
Put yourself in the bathroom with a noise machine so you're not distracted. See if you can last an hour. Almost nobody does.
But see, this is something I got better at last August when I quit the internet. I felt like my head was running around like one of those rotating fans, and I pulled it out of the wall, and it took a while for it to slow.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where I could sit and read a lot, and I read the Brothers in 20 days.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that now. I couldn't read that in 2 years, given how much internet I use.
Well, Pascal is suggesting something much more radical than that. You don't read in that room.
No, I know.
You don't even think consciously about X, Y, or Z in that room. You just say, who am I?
Do you?
What's going on here?
So why can't we do it? Well, maybe you can. Why can't I do it?
I can't do it either. Huh.
I think it's because I don't like myself.
I like the fact that I don't like myself. If I liked myself, I wouldn't like myself.
If you
I
liked it.
I don't respect people who think highly of themselves.
Yeah.
I respect people who are honest enough to say, I'm a 90% failure, and I've got to patch myself up, and God's got to help.
So here's my idea. You're at a party, someone walks over to you. You don't like them, you don't want to talk to them. You move away from them. It's easy to do. But if you don't like you, it's a little more difficult to evade you. And I think that plunging yourself headlong into a myriad of distractions, in a sense, does that. It fragments the internal life. I don't have to be with me.
Yeah.
That might be too simple, but that's the first thing I thought of.
That's true, but what's also true is something that seems to contradict that, namely that God designed us to look outward. The eyes can't see themselves without a mirror. We have 2 ears and only 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we speak.
Yeah.
We exist for other people, not for ourselves. And we can find who we are only by going outside of ourselves, which is why porn is so bad. It drives inward that which is designed to be outward. You give yourself to the other, but you don't do that in porn. You create your own other.
Well, then is Pascal wrong?
No, Pascal's right.
Because if we were made for the other and made not to be self-sufficient, maybe that says why we can't sit for a long period of time alone.
Every once in a while, you have to take your temperature. You have to be honest with yourself. It's not pleasant, but there it is. And it's at least a lesson in humility to realize that you can't stand your own company for an hour.
And you know what's funny? I was just about to ask you, how would one do this? But see, that's part of the problem. The problem is I don't like the simple answer, sit and put a noise machine on. I'm like, no, give us 5 steps. What are the,
Exactly.
You know, that's what I want.
We're techies. Technology is a way of making something that's hard into something that's simple.
Yeah.
For instance, the lights in this studio. All you have to do is press a button. That's easy.
Yeah.
Suppose we didn't have electricity. You'd have to gather wood, and you'd have to put a bonfire on, and you'd have to worry about it, other things catching. Okay. So technology is a way of making things easier. There's no such thing as spiritual technology. Life isn't meant to be easy.
Okay.
It's meant to be hard. So the how question is the wrong question. How do I do this? Give me 12 steps. If I do A, that'll cause B. If I do B, that'll cause C, like dominoes. We're free, and therefore we transcend that kind of causal determinism. You just do it. You just choose to do it. Well, how do I choose to do it? You just do it. I remember talking to a guy once who was deeply troubled, and he said, I want to believe in God, but I can't do it. I said, why can't you do it? Is it a problem of evil or what? No. I know all the arguments.
Yes.
And I know these people of faith, and they're happy, and I envy them. I can't do it. I said, yes, you can. He said, no, I can't. I said, well, who do you love the most? He said, my wife. I said, okay, suppose your wife appeared on the other side of that door. There was a glass frame in the door. You knew it was her, and the door was locked. And she said, Harry, open the door. What would you do? He said, I'd get up out of my seat and open the door. I said, how would you do it? He said, what do you mean? I mean, well, you've got to do it step by step.
How many steps do you have to take?
In order to open the door, you have to grab the handle. And in order to grab the handle, you have to twist your arm. And in order to twist your arm, you have to be by the door. And in order to be by the door, you have to walk to the door. And in order to walk to the door, you have to get up off your seat. And in order to get up off your seat, you have to make the decision to get up off your seat. And what's the connection between the decision and the muscles? He says, I don't know. I said, but you do it anyway, wouldn't you?
Yes.
He said, yeah. I said, so just do it with God.
You mean it's that simple? I said, no. Yep.
That's excellent. The problem though is we don't have the same. The consequence isn't usually as pleasant for people who then just do it. Like if I get off my seat and open the door for my wife, I know what to expect, and I'll probably get what I expect. But when you say to someone, just do it, just pray.
Well, that's where faith comes in. These unpleasant experiences, these difficulties, this fact that you have to be utterly honest and humble with your sins, the fact that God is going to test you and He's not going to make your life easier, you have to trust Him. You have to say, yeah, I know you're a doctor, and this is going to hurt, but you need it.
Yeah. Even I think like realizing like what the Holy Spirit's doing in our lives now. You know, sometimes we don't know what's going on with our emotional life, and just sort of submitting ourselves to the Father, almost like a patient. Like, go to work, Father. I trust you.
This is why you have to be a little kid.
Yeah. I trust that you're good.
Yep.
Anything more to say on Pascal?
It's logical to trust, because unless you're an atheist, there is some being that deserves the name God. Now, no being deserves the name God who is stupid. So he's got to be omniscient. No being deserves the name God who is weak, so he's got to be omnipotent. And no being deserves the name God if he's wicked, so he has to be good. And good means unselfish and loving. All right, so God is unlimited wisdom, unlimited power, and unlimited love. From those three premises, it logically follows that everything that happens in your life works out for good if you just trust God. He's bringing this stuff into your life for one reason and one reason only. He knows that it's good for you.
Yeah.
That's logical.
That's logical.
You can't escape the logic.
Yo, thanks for watching. You can watch the entire episode on YouTube if you want. You can listen to it at The Matt Fradd Show by subscribing on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And feel free to support me, patreon.com/MattFradd.